Alright, so today we're going to talk about a heels elevated back squat. Nothing wrong with the heels flat back squat. What this is going to do is it's going to allow for the spine to remain more vertical. So what I'm going to have you look at is Zach's squat with his heels flat, and take a look at his back angle, and then we will show you what it looks like with his heels elevated, and you'll see the difference. Okay? So you notice without his heels elevated, he's got this type of angle with his spine. So there's going to be a little bit more of a loading on the glutes and hamstrings, which is not bad. We'll have him pop up his heels. And then you'll be able to see what it does is it shortens his calves and it allows for his spine to stay much more vertical and upright. So you'll see he's almost straight up and down like he would be with a front squat. On this particular program, the TM20 program, it's a functional hypertrophy program. So that means that the time under tension is going to be under 40 seconds, between 30 and 40 seconds. So his adaptation is going to be mostly muscular adaptation, but we're starting to get into a neurological adaptation as well. So we're going to have a 3, 2, 1, 0 tempo. And what that means is he has a 3-second eccentric, so he's going to lower himself for 3 seconds. He's going to pause in the stretch position for 2 seconds. What that does is that dissipates the stretch reflex. So with a stretch reflex, a lot of times you can spring right back up, but when you pause, that means that you have to create a lot of intramuscular tension and a lot more neural drive to your muscles. And that creates a lot more hypertrophy potential. What he's going to do, go ahead and step over for me. So what he's going to do is, if you just take a look at his quads, if he's just standing there, just regular, there's not much tension going on in the quads. But if he shoves his feet apart, has the intention of shoving his feet apart, it's going to place a lot more pressure on his quads and in his glutes. So what you won't see happening is him pushing out, but it will be happening and making a tremendous difference in how his muscles activate. So go forward. This program will have 4 sets of 6 repetitions. Right? So he's set up. What you don't see is he's trying to shove his feet apart. He's shoving apart as hard as he possibly can. Pauses, still shoves, and then he shoves right back up and right back down again. So there's a 0 for the peak contraction, meaning that there's no pause. It's continuous. 3, 2, 1, pause, pause, up, and right back down. 3, 2, 1, pause, up. Alright, so this next exercise is a rear foot elevated split squat, or otherwise known as a Bulgarian squat. So what Zach is going to demonstrate for us is putting his rear foot up, slightly elevated. I don't like putting a foot all the way elevated on a big box or on a bench for the purpose that it stretches the hip flexor so much that it can cause excessive tilting in the lower back and the lumbar spine. So we'll just go with a 6 to 8 inch elevation here. And it's very important that his hamstring completely covers his calf. Right? So that way he's getting all the way down. That's going to activate his glutes and his hamstrings. The tempo is going to be the same as it was for the rear or the heels elevated squat. 3 down, 2 pause, 1 up. So you'll notice his torso remains upright. He's actually pressing his hips forward. And if his hips are down low enough, it's completely acceptable for his knee to go over his toe. Just kind of go under So what you see is his heel is staying as flat as possible, his hips are driving down. Muscles work best when they're completely stretched and completely contracted. So right here you can see that there's no way that he can stretch his quad anymore. Comes up, it's as contracted as possible with tension on it, comes all the way back down. You'll be surprised at how little amount of weight that you need to make your quads and glutes scream during this exercise. So for this one, we're going to do feet wide leg press. You can set your back, catch up, whatever is comfortable for you. So Zach's got a little bit tighter hips. He finds it easier to lay his seat back a little bit more. For me personally, I like my seat up all the way. I feel like that gives me a better contraction in the quads, just because we're anatomically built different. So whatever works best for you, it's going to work just fine. Right? So what Zach's going to do is he's going to lay back. So the key word is feet wide. So his feet are going to be wide up here. Now if they're wide and high, he's going to work a little bit more glutes and hamstrings. If they're wide and low, he's going to work a little bit more quads. So this is really our quad dominant part of the workout. So we'll just have him go and put his feet up pretty low and pretty wide. He'll go and unrack it for us. Now his intention on this one is actually a little bit different than it has been. He's going to intend on shoving his feet together. With the feet wide, there's going to put a little bit more of a stretch on the inner thigh, and then to squeeze together, it's going to put a lot more focus on the vastus medialis and a lot of those inner thigh muscles. And for bodybuilding, it's very important for like your ab and thigh. It's going to show a lot of different musculature and see some more definition. So he's going to lower for 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. He'll pause in the stretch as long as his back is not rounded, which it wasn't. And then continue to go. So 3 seconds, 2, 1, pause, pause, up. It's right back down again. It's very tempting, especially in a leg press, to come up, extend, and lock out. But every time you lock out, you lose tension. It basically takes tension off the muscles and puts it onto the joint. Right? So it's very important when you're reading tempo that you follow 100% script. Right? So we've worked with the heels elevated squat. We're going to get more vastus lateralis. We're going to get more glutes and rectus femoris with the Bulgarian squat. Now we're just kind of working the inner part of the thigh. So we're on to our second exercise for the hamstrings, seated leg curl. Seems simple enough, but you can actually increase a lot of tension on your hamstrings by doing a few key things. So I'll demonstrate, or I'll talk to you about it as Zach demonstrates. So this is one of those exercises where the first number is not the eccentric, right? The first number is actually the concentric contraction, okay? So it'll go down, it'll shorten for 1 second, pause for 2, the peak contraction is a little bit different than the rest of the time, and 3, 2, 1, and then right back down again. So what you're going to notice as he's coming up, once he gets to about right this angle, he's going to start to flex his quads and his glutes. What that does is that hyperextends and completely stretches out the hamstring. that really activates the glute muscles, and you're going to get a totally different contraction throughout this movement. It's very important that you're able to keep your toes straight up and down. There will be times where I'll call for like a pigeon toe or a duck toe to focus on a different head, but if it doesn't say so, make sure that you keep your heels and toes directly in line. Coming up on our last exercise of the day for quads and hamstrings. This is a press your hands away hyperextension. It's very important that you get the seat or the pad set just below your hips. You don't want to touch your hips because that's going to impede your range of motion. It'll end up making you round your back too much. There's a way to work your back on this. There's a way to work your hamstrings. We're focusing obviously on the hamstrings since it's a hamstring day. So what Z's going to do for me is just going to go ahead and get set. A couple of different intentions here with this one that can make a really big factor. So first what you notice is when he's at the top of the motion, he extends his arms. What that does is that extends the fulcrum. It's going to make the further away the weight is from his body, the harder it gets. And the closer to his body, the easier it gets. The reason we do it at the top is because you're stronger on the eccentric than you are on the concentric. So you'll see he'll pull his hands up, come up, press out, pause for 2 seconds, lower slowly for 3 seconds. You'll also notice that once he gets at the bottom where he's in the stretch, he's actually going to glide his hips off the pads a little bit. You may or may not see space, but his intention is to do so. There'll be a slight knee bend. What that's doing is that's putting all kinds of tension into the hamstrings and glutes so that they activate on the concentric contraction. Hips come off the pads, knees bend a little bit, then he'll just come up like normal, extend, 2-second pause, and 3. As he's coming down, he's trying to push the weight away from him. That way he doesn't lead with the weight. Everything's moving at the same time. It's going to put a lot of strain and stress on the glutes and hamstrings. You'll notice his spine is going to remain in a neutral position, just like he was doing with the glute ham raise. Or sorry, not with the glute ham raise, but with the Romanian deadlifts. And he's straining a little bit right now, and he's only done a few reps. So this is a fantastic exercise.